Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Boss Rush Spotlight podcast, the developer and creator interview series by Boss Rush. I am your host, Stephanie Klimov, and today I have some wonderful folks from Recurring Dream. I'd like to introduce Juan Hernandez, Rodolfo Hernandez, Jorge Flores, and Montresat Minor. Hi, everybody.
Hey,
Hi.
how's it going?
Hello.
Why don't I just go round robin? You just introduce yourself, what your title is with the company, and just a quick one-liner of what you're doing. So, Juan, I'll start with you.
All right, so I'm the narrative designer for our current game, Desktop Explorer, and from our studio, Recurring Dream. So that means I'm the writer for the game, but since we are a smaller team, multiple hats, I also program and kind of design for the game too, but my primary role is writing. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Excellent. Thank you. Rodolfo, you're next.
Yeah, I am a co-studio head of Recurring Dream alongside Jose Carlos, who isn't here. But I'm also a programmer and game designer for Desktop Explorer.
Right. Excellent. And Jorge?
Hi, I work as a composer and a sound designer for the game. So I make the bleeps and the bloops, and also the music that's gives you the unsettling emotions.
Bleeps and bloops are very important, mind you. All right, and then Mons.
Hi, so yeah, I'm Mons. I'm the social media and PR person. I'm the one that's answering the emails, reaching out to people, reaching out to podcasters like yourself and all of the media. That's what I'm in charge to do.
Yes, and you're very patient dealing with my inability to calculate time zones today, so thank you.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
So again, I met Mons at PAX West. A little bit of history here. They had a booth at the PAX Rising Showcase for Desktop Explorer. I pinpoint that game way before PAX West when they announced everything. I read the premise about the game, really loved the idea. Lots of nostalgic vibes for myself. So I'm going to just give some fast facts on Desktop Explorer. And then before we dig into the real questions, we'll have a little icebreaker round of questions for fun. So Desktop Explorer was, again, featured at PAX Rising Showcase at PAX West 2024. The summary is that you've inherited an old PC from your uncle, greeted by a very retro-looking operating system. You are looking through the user profiles. You explore a little bit until you come across a letter from your uncle addressed to you, tasking you to look into the mysterious app called Desktop Explorer. From there, you solve puzzles, decipher hidden passwords, and unravel the mystery behind everything. As you progressively uncover the computer's secrets, you might find that some files might just have meant to be hidden. So overall, it is described, right, as an investigational puzzle game set in a retro-style OS. You solve puzzles by interacting with built-in software features, which further immerses yourself into a realistic late 90s computer experience.
That's right.
So, yeah. Happy to dig into that in a little bit, but before we do that, I have a couple fun questions for everybody. Feel free to chime in. This is just for fun. Given the fact that you're working very, very hard on this game, it requires a lot of time and energy. What is your ideal form of caffeination to power you through game development? Is it coffee, tea, soda, or perhaps no caffeine?
At least for me, or I think most of our development, it's probably coffee. Although I particularly drink mostly decaf, so yeah, not really caffeinated.
I really like mocha. I enjoy chocolate, so that's my coffee of choice whenever I go to a coffee shop. That's
Very
what I
nice.
always like to order.
I'm very into doing like my own cold brew. I buy like the bags. It's not like my own, but I buy like bags of I think it's coffee from Trader Joe's. It's already like
Mm-hmm.
bagged up, so you just like put on water and then just let it sit on the refrigerator for like 12 hours, and then you take it out. You put some milk, some pumpkin spice, and whoop.
You just said the magic word, pumpkin spice. It's my favorite. I love it.
Nice. Myself, I don't drink coffee. I don't really like it. I'm the odd one out of the group, but I do like tea. I usually drink green tea, but I don't need it. But maybe if I started drinking coffee, it would change my life, and I would be way more
You,
productive.
you never know. I grew up drinking tea my whole life, mostly oolong, green tea, jasmine tea. So it just kind of was a drink for me. And then quick story, when I was in high school studying for a really tough final exam, I begged my parents to finally let me try a cup of coffee. Tasted gross back then, drank it, and then I fell asleep on top of my textbook. So I mean, I drink it now still, primarily for the pumpkin flavoring. But I'll admit I do drink Red Bull and Monster Energy drink, and I do know it is bad for you. So, all right, next. When are you most productive? Are you guys morning birds, night owls? Do you have like a collective time to work together since you are a team?
We usually work on the evenings. That's where we have. That's around the time we have all our team meetings and everything. But personally, I think I'm more productive around morning, even though I find it really hard to wake up. Whenever I do wake up and work early, it's like I can feel the day being more productive. So yeah, it's just hard for me.
Mhm.
I think I feel the same whenever I get up to work, and in the mornings everything aligns up to do great work, but it's really hard for me to work in the mornings. So I guess I get the most done at night, not because it's better for me, but because that's the time I'm awake. But
Yeah.
whenever I do work in the mornings, it's great.
I think that like my peak productivity, it's like around midday. Sometimes I go to sleep like very late, either playing video games or just chatting or working. But yeah, I'm usually the one that wakes up late and works until late.
I feel like when it comes to making music, I start at night and then I end later in the night, and everybody can attest to when I send a lot of the music files, it's very random times at night. Usually no one's awake, but yeah, and I think more when I deal more with the logic things like the sound design or things of how to use fmod, which is how we make the audio more dynamic.
Mhm.
I usually do those things in the morning, so it just depends what I'm doing.
Nice. Well, speaking of playing video games, I think I'll skip to this one. Right answers only. Who is the superior Mario brother, Mario or Luigi?
It's funny that you ask this, but it's something my brother and I talk about. Like when we were growing up, we played Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, and we're really big fans of the brother duo. And I'm sorry, if you said right answers only, the right answer is the best brother is when they're working together. So I'm sorry, I would never say that one of them is the best. Whenever they are working together, it's the most lovely thing ever. So
My goodness, I think that is the most perfect answer. And I'm looking forward to Brothership, by the way. I don't know about you
yeah,
guys, but I already have that pre-ordered. I can't wait.
Yeah, we'll play it as soon as it comes out.
By the way, Rodolfo and Juan Pablo are the brothers.
Yeah, maybe that wasn't clear. We didn't, but we are brothers. So.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I agree with what he said, but I think Mario is the best brother. So.
All right.
I mean, for me, I really like all the adventures that Luigi gets into in the Paper Mario
Hmm.
franchise. I would love to see a game like starring Luigi, for
Hmm.
sure. I think that it's long overdue. He should have his own
Yes.
game.
I have a son and he's 8 years old, and he and I get into these debates all the time. He's Team Mario all the way, and I'm Team Luigi. So, I mean, come on, it's for fun. But I like busting him because he takes it so seriously. He will get very upset.
That's so cute.
Yeah. Well, how about one more? What's your favorite gaming genre? So for games that you enjoy to play, do you have a particular type, like a platformer, first person shooter, doesn't matter, Metroidvania, anything that you gravitate towards?
I like mystery slash investigation games, and I don't know if that's even a genre. People will say games like that are Metroidvanias, although I think that's a genre that might change names soon. But whatever Outer Wilds is, that's my favorite genre.
I'm going to use Metroidvania. I like that.
Yeah.
I think my favorite genre is, well, whatever's narrative. I see a lot of games that are like genre slash narrative. So whenever they try to really take a story in an innovative way, it's my favorite thing. I would even call games like Inside and Limbo that are like narrative games but have absolutely no words. So those
Mhm.
games I really like when they take that sort of angle for innovation. And yeah, return shout out to Return of the Obra Dinn. I mean, yeah, the
Yes.
so Obra Dinn, great.
For me, I'm very into. I mean, everyone in the team knows this. I'm very into the Like a Dragon games. So I'm very into whatever genre doing silly side quests is. Like I also love like doing Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom
Hmm.
side quests. I really love
Oh yeah. There's a
just
ton
doing
of
the
that.
side quests. Just forgetting about the princess, forgetting about the 10 million yens girl. No, I just want to
Yeah.
know if I can deliver this pizza on time, or if I can
Hmm.
cross the street with these 2 cones of ice cream.
Well, speaking of which, didn't they recently announce like a spin-off Yakuza game that has to do with pirates?
Yes, it's
That looks
Yakuza. It's Yakuza Pirates in Hawaii. That's like the whole title. And yes, I was up at 3 a.m. when they announced it, and I was extremely overjoyed by it.
fair. I know. I'll be honest with you. I haven't played a Like a Dragon game, but I think this Yakuza title just really piqued my interest.
I think I gravitate a lot towards games that have a lot of a sandbox element.
Hmm.
Um, lately, I've been playing a lot of Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. Just creating a bunch of
Nice.
theme parks and messing with the people, I think, is a lot of fun. And the same Tears of the Kingdom, I've spent 200 hours on it and I haven't beat it yet. I just get sidetracked creating a giant
Hmm.
tower with wheels to attack all the bokoblins. So yeah.
Thanks for playing the little game with me. Now let's talk more about your game that's coming up, right? Desktop Explorer. Very exciting. So, I just want to make sure I have, is this your debut game
Yeah,
or
that's
have you?
correct.
So let's start with the vibe. What led your team to decide on the late 90s technology as the premise?
Um, I feel like you said, it's a very vibey type of game. Originally, the inspiration came from, like, yeah, sure, early internet or like old technology interfacing with like humans, or like we like to say that how how you use the computer, the term like the way that you use your files and your file system and everything says a lot about you as a person.
Mm,
And in the case for old operating systems, I feel like that's more the case because the experience was more streamlined, right? Today, like your phone and iPad and your modern OS, you can do everything on it. And so, ironically, as the more we spend on the computer, the less like it really, expresses like your personality, if that makes sense. Because
mm,
since everything's in there, before like you couldn't do much. So the little notes and paint documents that we used to have, which was all that we had at the time, like could tell more of a story for who was using the computer. So I would say, yeah, that's why we kind of, we also really like it. That's what we grew up with. So that's what led us to choose something like that.
mm. I was gonna say, I feel like you're hitting a great range of audience there, because I grew up with dial-up internet. I grew up with just Paint and Minesweep, uh, you know, AIM, and you know what? Even the age of floppy disks, where I kind of think
Yeah.
back on all the weird stuff I must have typed up and saved on a floppy disk and later on a USB, and I don't know where they are. I'm a little afraid of what people might discover about me if they ever find an old floppy disk. So,
Yeah.
all right. So, um, what about early internet era do you really feel like resonates with players? Is it just the shared experience, or do you feel like it's because I don't read your game as having any horror elements, but there's just something a little off-putting too about that time, even though we've grown up with it.
So yeah, of course, our game is mostly psychological, dark, and there are some horror elements in the
Okay.
game. But that's more from the experience and the narrative of the game and the themes we tackle in the story. But
Mm,
talking about literally like the immersion and the interaction with the computer, that also is a tool for us to deliver this kind of unsettling experience. Puzzle games, we as a team believe, even though puzzle games are like, or detective games are single player experiences, the best way you actually go about and play them is as a team, like three people in a couch thinking together and figuring out what to do in the puzzle. And that's a really like connecting experience, and it's really funny because that's how we used to explore our old computer. Like, speaking from personal experience, my brother and I, whenever we try to learn something new or use the computer, we sat together and everything was so new and so mysterious. And that sort of mysticism is actually pretty scary when you feel like you're in control, and then for some reason you get out of that stuff.
For Desktop Explorer, what came first, gameplay mechanics or story?
I think
Anyone?
Pablo should answer this.
Okay, then I guess I'll answer it. I just wanted to see if someone wanted to answer that question. It's funny that that's a question, because I think whenever we speak about a narrative game, the answer I expect is that the story came first. But as funny as it is, the idea for the game was before the narrative of the
Hmm.
game. So we knew we wanted to say to tell a story through this medium, through this genre that you could call like interface drama, which is uncovering a story through using like a computer interface, or that innovative way of telling a story, which other games have used. Some of our inspirations are games like Her Story from Sam Barlow,
Hmm.
or games like that. So we knew we wanted to do something like that, and for the reasons we stated for why we really like 90s computers and all these old interfaces, that's why we had that choice. But we had to make a demo because we planned to spotlight the game in a local convention in Seattle Indies Expo. So I had to pull up a story like quick, and that's the birth of the story. But over the time of development, since the story of the game deals with some characters that have some like strong personal issues, and we try really to make the game feel as immersive as possible, even in the narrative. It has a lot of stuff from us, even even things that we lived like just some years ago are reflected on the character's struggles and ambitions, you could say. And that's really cool for me, because at first I thought, no, I'm not telling the story I want to. I'm just putting words on paper because we needed to do this. And slowly but surely, the game has become the story of the game has become like something from all of us, from really deep inside. And yeah.
That's great. I'm glad that all kind of fell together. So, as far as gameplay, then, because there's a lot of puzzles to solve, how did you guys go about creating the puzzles? Did each of you kind of brainstorm how to go about it? And how also would you describe the level of difficulty?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I like to talk about, because when we started working on Desktop Explorer, I always try to be very clear about the collaborative environment that I was trying to build as we were thinking of, working as a studio and working on the game. um, we all have very different strengths and traits as indie developers, but I like to see that we're all like a little bit of game designers as well. Like I think the strongest ideas for puzzles or even mechanics and new software we add to the game have come from not the people who are like programmers, but more like, for example, Jorge, who's composer, came up with a really cool puzzle that we still is one of our favorites. Or like Monse has come with like one of the coolest softwares, in which like you can discover like hidden images within other images. So yeah, we do have like this brainstorming type collaboration in which we all try to design the idea of something interesting of how to use the computer, like an interesting way of using a functionality that usually people don't think is anything. Like, I don't know, view hidden files is the easy one, but something like sorting your files by author, or like looking at file weights, stuff like that, file sizes, can be used as puzzle solving tools. So ideas have come from like the entirety of the team. And touching on difficulty is also something interesting, because we have actually talked to other designers who have expressed that having so many tools in the game can make the game feel overwhelming. Like if you have so many things at your disposal, since the file system is very complex and computers have a bunch of functions, you add to that all of the files, all of the software and everything, it can lead the player to feel like, I could use all these tools everywhere, and so it can be overwhelming. So we try to be very careful about the way we structure puzzles. And like the game is trying to teach you not only to play the game, but also to like use a computer in a way. Oh, like here's a file, you can open it, you can edit, you can look at hidden files. And so as we keep building that, and we teach the player all that is possible in our operating system, it leads to like a path of the player discovering even more things that they can do, and we try to make it not very overwhelming, like I said. So it's highly dependent. People like to say that if you've used computers growing up, maybe the game will be easier for you. But since all of the puzzles use these functionalities in creative ways, I still think even if you haven't used these functionalities in your personal computer or before, like you can still really figure it out if you keep digging.
Since you mentioned that, is the way you structured the puzzles, is it more open-ended and sandboxy, where you can tackle different puzzles at whatever time and then discover bits of the story, or is it secretly a little bit more on the linear side, where you are guiding the player to solve certain puzzles at a certain time?
Yeah, that's I feel like that's a struggle with the game as we designed it, because we do want to have things that you can discover at your own pace. We don't want it to feel like, oh, I'm solving puzzle 1, 2, and then story beat, puzzle 3, 4, and then I discover this hidden file. There's certainly sandbox aspects to the game, and there's things to discover in your own time. But the game does need to follow some linearity for the story to make sense. You know, the story reveals and how things work together, unlocking different users. So there's definitely some linear aspect to it, but we still maintain some of the more sandboxy features. For example, if you uncover like a new functionality or something that's unknown to you in like puzzle 9, say, you can go back and think, oh, this feature that I just discovered exists. I can use it to discover something that I could have done before. I just didn't know it existed. So it's not linear in that way, but we like to hide a bunch of like details that way.
Oh, that's a difficult balance to strike. I don't know why this popped into my head, so forgive me. But because Mons mentioned, or a bunch of you guys mentioned like Tears of the Kingdom. I love that game. I'm a huge Zelda fan, and this did not happen to me. But when I was listening to a podcast about the game, one I don't know critique. It depends if you call it a critique. Is you can go do whatever you want to do, but at the expense of maybe spoiling things in the story too soon. Like if you pick the wrong tier, like the dragon's tier, you might actually get the climax of the Zelda's memories
Yeah.
right away. And like, oh gosh, like this happened, and then you get all the stuff afterwards. I mean, didn't happen with me. I don't know if that's really a big deal to people, but I'm just trying to say like it's definitely a challenge to have a relatively open-ended game but also tell a story because a story needs to have a beginning, middle and end. So, I just find it very intriguing. So, thank you.
Yeah, no, totally. It's something that we think about a lot too.
Yeah. So I picked out little questions individually for everybody. So I'll start with you, Juan. Based off of your role, what are what are you hoping gamers will walk away after playing the game? Like, what would be your proudest moment if a gamer were to come up to you? I played Desktop Explorer and blank.
Well, that's certainly a really easy question to answer, really small. I feel like it's really a really charged question, but if I were to think what would be the proudest moment, would be something along the lines of, there are, of course, I'm really into the story of the game, of course, and I already mentioned that I'm really into narrative games, and I really hope our game can use our, like, we have the mission for being a really immersive experience, but we also wanted to that aspect to be really reflected on the story. So there are games that have given me this level of immersion story wise, that they blur the line, no matter how fantasy or how what amount of fiction the game has. There's this line blurred of, maybe this did happen. That happens to me with books or with movies or
Mhm.
with games, that when you finish them you end up like, there's this term like movie drunk, like the game ends and you're like,
Mhm.
this happened and I'm downloading the
Mhm.
personality of this character. But the way that has impacted me in my life has like changed a core concept of my life, and I don't want to absolutely spoil Outer Wilds, but that's a game that's a really good example. I feel like people have played it understand this concept really well, that there are things about yourself that a game can
Mm.
change. So we know the game we're making right now speaks of really strong topics and topics that we're really passionate about. So I'm not trying to say that I hope that I change the life of the players right now.
Nice.
That's not like entirely the goal, but there are some struggles, there are some ideas that we all share as a team. And whenever someone plays the game and really that idea really resonates with them,
Mhm.
I'm really hopeful they feel like, wow, this team of 6 guys that come from Mexico, turns out they're my kindred spirits because they believe this,
Mm.
and there's this story that they made. And whenever they feel like in the dumps or happy related to something like that, they can remember our game and say,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not alone in this. So yeah.
Well, I think the key word is resonates, right? So I feel you with that. It's a game where, some games are great where you just shut it off and you're like, all right, that's a great game, moving on. And then others where it kind of haunts you a little bit, but in a good way, Um,
Totally.
and yeah, before I keep going, I really, if I can ask, what are some themes that you are exploring? And if you want to kind of keep it general as to not spoil anything, definitely. But like, are you able to share some of the themes that we'll expect to
Yeah,
see?
of course, of course. I mean, I think the core concepts are stuff about mental illness, especially
Mm,
since you are exploring the computer of someone else. There's this aspect of you snooping around the the secrets of these characters, and there's this anecdote that I feel comfortable enough to share, that someone who played the demo at PAX actually worked in cybersecurity, like government stuff. So he had to actually go through the files of people to uncover secrets of them. And that was like a double-edged sword, because of course he could find like the crimes or whatever, but he also found their private lives. So he told us that the game like resonated with him from that, like uncovering the secrets of people is really, it's a really strong topic. And when I heard that, like my mind exploded. And there are topics about self-harm, mental health struggles. We really, those are things that are really important to us, and in no way are topics that we feel like, oh yeah, we're gonna add them because of shock value. There's no way we treat those topics like that. We even talk about how many, or how are we going to address like the, not warnings, but like advisories on our game, that this game deals with this topic. So just take that as like a caution, or like a warning,
yeah.
so you can interact with the story. And yeah.
I appreciate you explaining that and elaborating. That's kind of one of the reasons why I gravitate a lot towards indies. I'm not saying that AAA studios and AAA games can never touch upon um, important topics like mental health, but I always feel like the indie studios just, I don't know, if maybe because they are able to freely work on what they want to work on, and it also feels more genuine and less shoehorned. And I gain a lot of insightful experiences. One, it's a bigger game, but technically Ninja Theory I believe is considered indie, but I love the Hellblade
Yeah.
Senua games. That resonates with me a lot. And it's kind of late in the night, so I can't just start pulling off names of games. But anything that does address, mental illness, it's like, again, I'm not alone, right? Not everything is sunshine and rainbows as much as we'd like. So, all
Yeah.
right, Rodolfo, what has been the most fun and also most challenging aspect of developing this game for you, anyway?
I find it funny how fun and challenging are, linked here. Not that I don't find challenging things about the game fun, but there certainly have been challenging things. Like when we set up to build a simulation for a computer, a lot of people have asked, like, oh, did you build like an entire operating system? Which of course we didn't. It's a game, and so a lot of the things are simulated. However, for it to work as a simulation, like a lot of systems have been designed, and I've like come across problems that I'm like, operating system designers like looked at this issue and had to solve it, and now I'm like replicating their solutions. So like, the whole file system, in my mind it was like, yeah, easy, some files, you open them and you read them and that's it. But like the whole file structure, being able to open and save your own files, uh, just structuring the computer as a whole, even like user permission stuff like that. There's a bunch of things that we didn't consider at the beginning, but I've had fun designing, and as I design them, I can also think of creative ways of using them as puzzle solving tools. So I think that's my favorite part, just the file system.
Mm-hmm. Which one of you guys, or maybe it was a team effort, the desktop explorer, like the little character icon, was there any inspiration behind that? Because he doesn't look like Clip, or they don't look like Clippy at all, but I got the Clippy vibe.
Yeah, no, Pizarro is I would say the design is very much our artist's idea. The only prompt that we gave him was like, a Clippy based assistant that is supposed to help you,
Mm-hmm.
solve the puzzles and guide you through the OS. And instead of a clip, he is a little notepad.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, he's definitely a character we're very fond of, and as we keep building the game, there's not a lot of things in the demo that show this off, but
Mm-hmm.
he's supposed to be a main presence and also a storytelling device. So very very characteristic of our simulated OS.
Great job, because I immediately just thought, oh, Clippy, but their version, so you have your own identity, but it's got that same charm. I'm like, oh, look, I just want to click on you and see what you do.
Yeah, he's supposed to be very like corny and like say dumb
Yeah,
things.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, a huge aspect of what, in my opinion, makes an immersive game is sound. So, Jorge, what inspiration did you lean on for composing, either music or sound for Desktop Explorer?
Yeah, so I mean, it's really fun because this game, you wouldn't think it has a lot of music by the premise of it, but the way the story is told and the game is progressed is through these files called STPs, which are storytelling files which simulate a text adventure. They
Mm-hmm.
take you through specific environments, and these environments are supposed to evoke specific emotions, which is
Mm-hmm.
where the fun comes in for me, where certain parts of it have to simulate that you're in a cave and there's certain mystery, but then there's parts where a lot of messed up things happen, and then that's where um, I grab inspiration from music from horror films. Um, Specifically, the horror stuff that I like to get inspiration from is, for example, I like music like from Suspiria, um,
Okay.
which Tom York made the music for it. Uses his voice and the synthesizer in a lot of very creative ways to make it very, um, very unsettling and horrifying. And we just want to make the player feel bad. The moment. But no, I mean, also just the fact that it's a text adventure based, there's a lot of
Mhm.
inspiration from retro games. I'm a big fan of Mega Man 2, Castlevania, so all of that goes in there. And as the game progresses, there's a lot of different environments. We go into, without spoiling a lot, there's temples and liminal spaces, and users have different personalities, which is also reflected in the music. And it's very fun to create things that I'll get inspiration from 90s electronic music and 80s Japanese music, and just like all the stuff that I like, and that a lot of the team we share a lot of. We're all very much fans of movies and music as well, and it's fun to have those conversations. Um, but yeah, and also for the sounds, I mean, um, getting things from inspiration from old school operating systems, but also giving it our own touch.
Mhm.
And also, it's fun recording things and having them play when you interact with it.
Yeah, I'd be like, yeah, I made that. So how does it work? Does your team provide you with just we want you to create something that evokes this mood, or we want you to evoke terror, and then you kind of run with it, send them a sample, and then they provide feedback? Like, how does that process work?
Well, there isn't any music at the beginning of it, but there's definitely a lot of concept art,
Mhm.
um, very detailed concept art, also storytelling elements, and all of that is also obviously big inspiration for what needs to be conveyed. But
Mhm.
mostly, there's a lot of freedom to, um, there isn't any specific like points that need to be like this is how this needs to feel. I kind of just go with my gut on a lot of things,
Mhm.
and sometimes I have multiple options when I just want to see. I like everything, and I just want to see what everybody wants or everybody is more in favor of, and we kind of do votes. But when it comes to music, I really just go with my gut, and I say this feels like I want to um, have them think of something very old and very disturbing, and this is what it's going to be.
Nice. That's great, like creative license right there. That's awesome. Thank you. And last but not least, Mons, I'm really curious to hear your feedback. What was the response from PAX West from the various people that played the demo? Because I'm sure you got a lot of FaceTime with a lot of players. What were some of the feedback that you guys got?
Uh, I mean, definitely it was a pretty big step from last year that we presented the demo at six, the Seattle Indies Expo. This time around, we were at PAX West, like the big leagues,
Oh yeah.
and it was. I mean, the other expo, it was just like one day. This one was 4 days, like the whole day. We had to do like schedules and see how we needed to interact with people. At first, you're like, yeah, like almost screaming out of joy and trying to convey, like, this is my game, this is our game. And then Sunday, Monday comes around, and you don't have like the same strength or vocal cords that you had like the previous 2 to 3 days. It was a very good experience. I think that many people, even if they just passed around our booth, were like, "Oh wow, that's a CRT monitor. How did they get that here?" That was pretty cool to hear, like people saying, like, "Oh wow, it's been like 20 years since I saw like a PC like that," and that's just from the people that just passed by our booth. The people that played it. There is it's not a like an actual jump scare, but something very creepy happens at the end of the PAX demo, and like seeing the reaction of people, like, oh wow, like what, how did that happen, why did that happen. It's a very cool thing to see. Yeah, overall we had a very very nice time, like talking to people, to other people that even recommended us like other type of puzzle games or like very obscure games. We're like, oh great, I really love like knowing that other people are doing also like inventive things, um messed up stuff. I like all of it. And also something that I really loved was seeing people, like families, like come together and playing the demo. It was very very heartwarming, like seeing um, parents with their kids like playing the demo. Our game, it's not like overly. I mean, it's not violent. It does have like certain things that it's important. Like parents can be a guide for kids, but it's like overall, it's very interesting to see how like younger generations interact with an old OS. Like for example, a kid came up to me and said like, oh, how did they get like this ancient technology when they saw like the CRT
No.
monitor. And I was like, when I was your age, when I was your age, that was like the computer, the monitor that I, and the type of OS that I used to uh, that I learned how to use a computer. And at least for me, it was very scary, like having like that first interaction with technology. I know like nowadays, like younger generations can like use an iPad or an iPhone and that sort of thing. That I had an like an smartphone until uh, late high school, like early college. So it's very interesting to see, and it was fascinating to see like families like coming together and thinking, oh, how can we solve like this puzzle or this other puzzle, and each member of the family like had a different point of view on how to solve something, and that was very, very, very nice, like heartwarming for me at least.
Thanks for sharing that. I wouldn't even think that like families, I don't even think of that scenario of families playing the demo together. It hurts. My spine is disintegrating into ash hearing them call it ancient.
Yeah.
But it is very true. Yeah, we grew up like right when things were getting started. It's like this unknown frontier. Um, Whereas, I have a kid who's just like, oh, that's nothing. So, um, out of your whole team, I know not everybody's on here, so I met you, Mons, but who else was able to attend PAX West? Were all of you guys able to go?
Yeah, we're all there.
Oh,
Us
nice.
four,
Okay,
and then
nice.
Jose Carlos, and we also had two other friends helping us out. So we were 7 in total.
Oh, that's awesome. You guys all enjoyed it must have felt overwhelming, right? Because I myself, just as media, by Monday, I too was so run down. I was like, let me just hit a booth or two and I'm done.
Yeah, no, it was definitely overwhelming, and we appreciated the help of having like a lot of people to be able to run the booth because, yeah, taking breaks is really important.
Oh, for sure. I just have a couple more questions and I think we can kind of wrap it up. What would be well, actually, no, a couple more questions. Since you mentioned the demo at PAX, there is currently, and for everyone that's listening, there is a demo available on Steam, correct, for Desktop Explorer. So if
Yep.
this topic interests you, please check out the demo. But my question for you guys, is this the same demo found at PAX or is it a slightly different experience?
Yeah, no, it's a different experience. The demo that's on Steam is more of a sit down and try to really soak in the experience. It's a very, it can take up to like 30, 40, 50 minutes type. We couldn't do that at PAX, so we built shorter experience, the different puzzles. It did have a timer also, but yeah, that was like exclusive for PAX, so that's a different thing.
Nice. It must have actually been more difficult to trim down a demo meant for PAX. I don't know. I can only imagine, right? Because you need to showcase the best parts of your game in such a little bit amount of time.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a hard balance to strike.
Yeah, it totally was.
What do you guys anticipate to be the maybe average total play time? Once game releases, what are people looking at?
We're aiming for with this kind of games like puzzle narrative, we feel like a good playtime goal is like 6 hours, 6 to 4, 4 6
Nice.
hours. However, we from experience and playing games or even testing our own game, we know puzzle games like really vary in playtime, since all players are different, all players tackle them differently. Like in a completionist sort of mindset of I'm going to find every single achievement or every single thing, you can obviously spend more time. But yeah, we're generally like 6 hours, I would think.
So the last one, it's I put it in there selfishly. It's one of my favorite kinds of questions. So this is all hypothetical. It's nothing to do with what you could be talking about or whatever in the future. Who knows? But I am a big fan of physical media. I love collector's editions. I love when, especially indies get picked up and work with companies like, was it Super Rare, Limited Run, Serenity Forge, blah, blah, blah. With your game, Desktop Explorer, if there was no limits on funding, what you could do, what would be your ideal collector's edition? If you guys are to put out your own collector's edition for fans to buy, what would you want in it?
It's funny that you added this question because this is something we actually talk about a lot as a team. We're also very much into physical media and love collector's editions, especially for indie games. I feel like AAA games tend to go like, oh, plastic figure and that's it. But we always pictured like, how old software was sold in like cardboard boxes.
Mhm.
So like a big box for like imagine World of Warcraft, first editions where you like get the whole box and there's a bunch of manuals inside. Um, I feel like a very presentable Microsoft Word type software pack for
Yes.
Desktop Explorer would be
Mhm.
nice. And then also we're huge fans of and collectors of like animal pins. So we really want to have like a collection of all of the little icons for all the file types as animal pins. So that would be what we really want to do. And I also really want to highlight we want to have the soundtrack, the OST for Desert Explorer on vinyl. I think that's very much a goal that we have because there's a lot of really good music, and it keeps growing. So Jorge is just like, yeah, I'm gonna make songs for all these puzzles, and well, okay, well,
Please
the
do.
LP is going to be long, so
Do the
yeah,
whole gamut of it. I the name's escaping me. At PAX there was a section that sold vinyl, CDs, and cassettes. Cassettes.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
I can imagine Desktop
yeah,
Explorer OST with vinyl, CDs, because CDs is very 90s, but also cassettes too. I would
yeah.
be all for it. All the more reason that everyone needs to wishlist the game, first of all, on Steam, and then whenever it comes out, release date TBD. Make sure you pick it up, play it, leave a review because that's how we get our physical media dreams come true. I know I want pins. I want the Microsoft Windows OS type box. I would love a manual. I'll buy all of it. I'll give you all my money. Um, but anyway, yeah, so that kind of brings us to the end. Thank you very much for your patience and sticking with me today. I had a lot of fun getting to know you guys. Again, I feel like my time with Desktop Explorer was very, very limited at PAX. Partially was my own doing, with just dealing with schedules, but also, you guys were always packed, which is a good thing. So, I will admit, I was a little intimidated. I'm like, all right, I don't want to kick anyone out, so I can play it. So, um, I've learned a lot more though by speaking with you guys. I can feel the passion in this project, which, intrigues me all the more. So I'm definitely going to be keeping my eyes peeled on a release date whenever that comes in the future. So
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
let me just run through the housekeeping and then, we'll get out of here. So if you want to support the Boss Rush podcast and the Boss Rush Network, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/Boss Rush Network at the tier that's right for you. Earning perks such as early ad-free access to this and other podcasts, exclusive access to spotlight interview access threads, voting rights on Video Game Book Club, and more. So that's patreon.com/Boss Rush Network. But as always, your listenership and viewership is always good enough for us. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and leave us a thumbs up or a comment. And if you're listening on podcast services like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please consider leaving us a review. Lastly, please check out our merch at TeePublic with thank you to Corey, over 50 designs to represent your favorite shows and more. And as always, you can check out all of our content, reviews, and articles and more on bossrush.net. Um, any one of you guys can chime in. Where can people follow you guys either on socials, keep tabs on updates for when the game will come out? Other than on Steam, of
I
course. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we have our Steam page, of course. You can look us up as Desktop Explorer. We also have an itch.io page. We have a Discord server that's you get like all the behind the scenes. You can talk to the devs. You can report bugs if there are any. And we also have the usual. We have an Instagram account as Desktop Explorer. We have an X account,
Mhm.
Desktop Explorer. Also, Rec Dream. Our studio, it's called Recurring Dream. And am I missing something? Oh, TikTok. I'm doing the TikTok. I'm joining the kids and uh, uh, making Pizarro do some interesting dances to grab the youngsters' attention.
Nice. And actually, you know what? This would be great. What we'll do is we'll grab all those links and we'll put them in our show notes so people can click on it to make it easier. So, again, Mons, Juan, Rodolfo, Jorge, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And to our audience, thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode of the Boss Rush Spotlight Podcast, the interview series for the Boss Rush Network. Again, you can catch new episodes on the podcast series services of your choice, YouTube, or just subscribe to the channel or Spotlight podcast feed. So thank you again and have a good night.
If you want to see how you can become a Patreon producer, head on over to patreon.com/BossRushNetwork. The Patreon producers for this month are Adriel Munger, Austin Campbell, Celeste Roberts, Christian S., Sana Dierig, Francisco Santillan, Matthew Keel, and Todd Oxtra. Thanks for your continued support of the Boss Rush Network.